How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Beis, Daf 52 of Masechta Gittin. Friends, I gotta move. Shabbos is right around the corner, and we got a daf to do. It's not a particularly difficult daf, but we do have to move, and we're just gonna do Mishnah to Mishnah on this daf. I don't think it's a hard daf. I mean, it's a little technical. I mean, it's Masechta Gittin and Yisomim and Apotropin, but there's one part that's like a little bit technical, but I think we should be able to move. Let's move. Yisomim, okay, so we're on Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph, all the way at the top of the Daf, at the Mishnah. Yisomim shesomchu eitzel bal habayis. So if you have orphans, you have, they're orphans, and there's some Balabais, some guy that they somehow ended up becoming close to. Meaning, let's go back to for a second. Oshemina lo an apotropis, or their father had actually appointed for them an apotropis. An apotropis is like a representative. Right? We've seen apotropis come up in the past. It's like you have these orphans, and they need somebody. I think the assumption is that the orphans are minors, and they need somebody to represent their interests. To make sure that nobody's taking advantage of them, to make sure that their finances are being managed properly, things like that. So if their father had designated somebody, like, he was sick and he said, or not, or whatever, like whatever it is, he had, indicated, appointed somebody that when he dies, this person should take care of his kids. So that would be that. So if we start from the beginning of the Mishnah, somehow there was no apotropis that was appointed, but maybe a neighbor, somebody ended up sort of by default being the de facto kind of person helping out and taking care of, the estate on behalf of the kids and looking out for their well-being. Or the father had designated an apotropis. So this apotropis, this person, is responsible to separate Trumas and Maasros for these Yisomim so that they're not eating Tevel. Apotropis shemineu avi Yisomim, an apotropis who was appointed by the father, that when he dies, if he dies, this person should take care of the orphans. Yishava, so when these orphans get older and now I guess they're adults, and he swears to them that when he was managing their estate for them, he did not do anything dishonest, steal anything like that. Minu bezdin lo yishava. But if he was appointed by bezdin, i.e., the father didn't appoint an apotropis, there was nobody who was sort of stepping up to take care of them. So bezdin appointed an apotropis for them, so that there would be somebody looking out for a court appointed sort of advocate or whatever it is. So somebody looking out for their interests. Then lo yishava, that court appointed apotropis does not swear, because swearing is a big, intense thing, Sefer Torah, all that kind of stuff. So the court-appointed apotropis does not need to swear. The Gemara is going to discuss this at the end of the daf. Abba Shaul Omer Chiluf Advarim. Abba Shaul says fakert, that the father, if he's appointed by the father, he does not swear. If he's appointed by the bezdin, he does swear. The Gemara is going to explain the rationale. I don't understand. Our Mishnah says that the apotropis separates Trumas and Maasros, but we have a brayso that says atem, right? It says kintarimu gam atem. It says by Truma it says atem v'lo shutfin, not partners, right? If you have two people who own a field, one of them cannot separate Trumas for the produce of the partner. Atem v'lo arisin. If you have a sharecropper, the sharecropper cannot separate Truma for the owner of the field. Atem v'lo apotropin. Right, you separate Trumas and not an apotropis. An apotropis does not separate Truma. Atem v'lo hatarim es she'eino shelo, and you, not somebody who is separating produce that does not belong to them. So we see that we have a brayso that says an apotropis cannot separate Trumas and Maasros. So Rav Chisda lo kasha. Rav Chisda says, don't worry, it's no problem. Kan lahachil, kan lahanich. It depends what the purpose of separating Trumas and Maasros is for. If the kids are hungry and the kids need to eat, and all they have to eat is tevel, well, okay, so the apotropis separates Trumas and Maasros so that they can eat. But if there is grain that they don't need right now, and he's storing it away for them for when they're older, storing it in some kind of backup in some kind of granary. So then storage thing. So then don't separate Trumas and Maasros. just let it wait until they're older and they'll separate it for themselves. V'atanya, and we learn similarly in a brisa, ha'apetropin, tormin u'ma'asin lahacha v'lo la'aniach. An apotropis can separate trumas and maasros for the kids to eat right now, but not if they're going to be putting it away for a later time. And an apotropis can sell animals, slaves, maidservants, houses, fields, vineyards, lahachil, again, if the kids need money now to eat. But not just, why don't we sell all this stuff and then they'll have like a whole big pile of money and we can invest it or whatever. Like, no. Sell things off as it's necessary for them to eat. Peris, and the apotropis can sell fruits, yenis, wines, shmonim, oils, saltos, flowers, lahachil, again, to eat, avalo laniach, not to put away the money for later. The osan lulav varove, and the apotropis organizes for them a lulav, v'suke, v'tzitzis, v'chol davar sheyesh lekitzba, and anything that has a fixed amount, right? You need a tzitzis, okay, buy some tzitzis. It's a fixed amount. The isui shofar, to include also a shofar. They could buy them a shofar. V'lokan lem sefer Torah, tefillin, mezuzis, and the apotropis can purchase a sefer Torah, tefillin, mezuzis, v'chol davar sheyesh lo kitzba, and anything that has a fixed price, l'isui megillah. To include that also, they can purchase a megillah. Ve'ein poskin aleim tzedakah. But it's not the place of the apotropis to start giving charitable donations from the estate of the orphans. Right? Because there's always going to be charitable donations to give, and the next thing you know, he gave away all the money to charity, and the kids, there's nothing for them to live on. Right? If there's a big, they're collecting money for pidyon shvuyim, the apotropis doesn't commit the money from the orphan's estate. And he cannot get involved and spend the orphan's money on anything that does not have a fixed price. To include, right, if there are mourners and people are giving money to support them, to take care of the mourners, so the apotropis doesn't donate the money of the orphan's estate for that. And an apotropis doesn't go to court, with things related to the estate that will end up in the orphans having to, lose the case and have to pay money, or even for them to win the case and to gain something related to the estate. But why can't they do something to benefit the estate? What's wrong, right? Meaning it said you can't go to court either to make them have to pay or to make them get something, gain something. What's wrong with gaining something? No, what it means is that they can't, if they go to court with the intention of winning and benefiting the estate, but then they end up losing, so they don't have to pay. They don't have to pay for that. Okay. Meaning even if they lose the case, I guess they'll have to wait until the kids are older and I guess what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't remember. Recase it. Okay. Re-litigate, maybe is the word I'm thinking of. I don't even know if that's accurate. And an apotropis can't say, hey, the estate, right, the orphans own real estate that's far away. Why don't we sell that real estate and buy real estate that's closer, nearby? No, you can't do that. And they can't say, they own real estate that's low quality. Why don't we sell that and buy high quality real estate? My time, how come? This sounds like a good idea, right? Let's get rid of the faraway stuff and buy close stuff. Let's get rid of the bad stuff. Let's buy good stuff. So my time, how come you can't do that? To Dilma Mishtadfin, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe you'll sell the faraway stuff, buy close by stuff, and then the field's going to get ruined. The wind is going to ruin the field, or you'll think you're buying, you're selling the bad stuff and buying the good stuff, and again, the field's going to get ruined. And now what? The apotropis can't sell fields to buy slaves because slaves die, fields don't. But you can do fakert. You can sell a slave in order to purchase a field because a field is a better investment. Whereas Reb Shimon Gamliel says, Nisht, you can't even sell a field in order to purchase avodim No, the opposite. You can't even sell avodim to purchase a field. My timer. How come? Dilma lo mishafyon. Because maybe you'll sell the avodim, buy the field, which you think is a great idea, right? Because it's a long-term investment, real estate always going up. But then the next thing you know, you have Shimon coming and saying, hey, you couldn't buy that field from Reuven, he stole it from me, and now what? An apotropis cannot free an eved because he doesn't own the eved, the yisomim too. But as we learned earlier, if they need to eat, so the apotropis can sell the avodim to other people. Then those people who now own the eved, they can free the eved. Rabbi Omer says, Rabbi Omer Ani, I say afu nosin to me atzmo v'yotze, that the eved can even buy himself back from the apotropis, because the apotropis, just like the apotropis can sell the eved to somebody else, the apotropis can sell the eved to himself. Okay. And then at the end, the apotropis needs to make a cheshbon with the orphans to make sure that he didn't, to be sure that he didn't take anything dishonestly. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Eino tzarich, that you don't need to make this cheshbon at the end. Ein osin apotropos noshim v'avodim ktanim. You don't make an apotropos is not a woman, because says Rashi that she's not going to be, as what does Rashi say? Ein darken lotzis v'lov of l'troch. Right, an apotropos needs to be busy representing the interests of the yisomim, and the assumption was that that women would not be as running around as the men were. Maybe that was I don't know if that would necessarily. I guess you can make arguments to the contrary culturally, depending on the context. V'avadim uktanim, as well as avadim aren't trustworthy, v'ktanim are too young. Ve'im minun avi yisomim rishus biyada. But if the father wants to appoint these people, right? If they would do a good job, so then Seder, you can do that. Apotropis dehava b'shavusei de Reb Meir. There was an apotropis who was in Reb Meir's town. This is very interesting. These are two interesting anecdotes now. Dehava kamizabin arisa v'zovin avdei, and this apotropis was acting not so good. He was selling the land of the yisomim and he was purchasing avodim. V'lo shavke Reb Meir. Reb Meir did not allow the sales to go through because Reb Meir was standing up for the yisomim. And right, because you can't sell real estate in order to buy avodim, right? We said you can't do that. So Reb Meir was standing up for the yisomim. But then there was Reb Meir had a dream. Ani lairos vata livnos, that the Eibishter was saying in a dream, I'm actually looking to ruin these yisomim. Right there, I saw in the article he quoted the Maharsha that that their father had gotten these properties through in inappropriate ways, and Hashem says, I'm actually trying to make these kids lose those properties, and you're saving them. There's a what? What just happened? There's a hunt outside. Livnos va'afilu hachi, but even so, Reb Meir stuck to his. He didn't get scared by that. He didn't get scared by that dream that God came to him and says, "What are you doing?" No, Reb Meir stuck to his to what he felt was the right thing to do. Lo ashkach, Reb Meir did not listen. Omer tivei chalomus lo manim v'lo moridin. That you can't put too much into a dream. As far that's the Shabbos horn. We still have a lot to do. I don't know. We'll have to figure out what to do over here. I'm running out of time, and we still have a lot to do. I don't know. I'll have to figure out what to do. In the meantime, I'm going on. But Reb Meir felt that. Reb Meir felt, look, yeah, I know God came to me in a dream and said, "What are you doing?" But that's just a dream. And what I know is that the halacha is that an apotropos is not allowed to sell land in order to buy avodim. So sorry, I'm sticking to the halacha. That's gewaldig. That's really gewaldig. That's really, really gewaldig. That's really, really gewaldig. Hanu betrayed the igrebu sa'in. There were these two people, Reuven and Shimon, that the Satan would come and drive them crazy, and they would get into fights. The Satan was doing it to them. And every Erev Shabbos, these two people would fight. Ikla Reb Meir lahasum. So Reb Meir went over there. Akvinu tlasa beishimshe, and prevented these two people from fighting for 3 weeks in a row. Ad overlu shama, until finally they managed to make peace among themselves. Shame tikamer voida apki Rav Meir laugav mi beise, and then Rav Meir overheard the people making noise outside, and then Rav Meir overheard the people, the Sultan saying, "Wow, look what Rav Meir did! He is preventing me from going to the house and making these people fight." So, Givaldi, two stories that really show Rav Meir sticking up for the little guy. Givaldi, Rav Meir. How apotropis dav b'shavusa Yeshua ben Levi. There was an apotropis in the neighborhood of in the town of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and he was selling the property of the Yisobim, and he was purchasing oxen. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi didn't seem to have an issue with it. So because Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had like Rabbi Yossi the Tanya, as we learned in Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yossi miyomai lo karisi liishti ishti v'shori shori. I never called my wife my wife. I never called my ox my ox. El ishti beisi l'shori. So I always called my wife my house because she's the most important person in the house, and my ox my field because the ox is the most important thing in the field. And therefore we see how important an ox is for a field, and that's why Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi did not have a problem with the apotropos selling the field in order to buy an ox, because you're not really going to be able to do much with the field without an ox. So therefore, it felt like an acceptable exchange. Hanu Yasmi Davu Smiche Gabe Ai Savta. There were these orphans who were relying upon a certain elderly woman, right? As we said in the Mishnah, if if the father didn't appoint an apotropos, but someone kind of stepped in and played that role, so then that's acceptable. That role was being played by this elderly woman. Haveluhu Torta, and these Yisobim had an ox. Shakla Vizabinta Nialayu, and she sold the ox for them. Also, Krovim the Kamidu of Nachman, and now all of a sudden the relatives of the Yisomim come to Rav Nachman. Amrule, and they said to Rav Nachman, Maya Vidta, what's she doing? Dezabna, she's selling their ox. Amar Lehu, and Rav Nachman says, yeah, so what? Yisomim shesamchu etzo balabayisnam. We have a Mishnah that says that if the Yisomim, have like somebody who's taking care of them, so then that's fine. So, and she's taking care of them, and she's allowed to sell, an ox, in order for them to be able to eat. But they say, yeah, but since she sold the ox has gone up in value, and now they're missing out on that value. To which Rav Nachman says, yeah, that's true. I mean, they're missing, right? She sold the ox too late, right? The value is to the buyer. To which then the relative said, yes, but she never actually collected money for that ox. She sold the ox. The guy took the ox and he's using it, but he never actually paid them. So Rav Nachman says, that's an important detail. Well then, I'll invoke the halacha of Rav Chanileh bar Idi Amar Shmuel. Rav Chanileh bar Idi Amar Shmuel Nichsei Yisomin, that when it comes to the property of Yisomin Arein Kehektish, like hektish v'lo mikne ele bechaspa, that are only able to be purchased with money, right? Generally speaking, if I sell an object to somebody, so when they take it into their possession and they move it, it's a kinyan meshicha, and then that is a kinyan. But specifically when it comes to hektish, the way to be kone hektish is not with meshicha, it's with money. It's the davka delivering of money. And we're saying that the property of that by Yisomim, it is also money. It's like hektish, that it's the money that makes the kinyan, not the moving, not the taking and moving of the object. And therefore, Rav Nachman says, well, if this person who purchased the ox never paid her, well then I don't care that he did a kinyan meshicha. It makes no difference. There is no kinyan meshicha by hektish, or in this case by the ox of the Yisomim, and that person who bought it doesn't actually own the ox. The orphans still own the ox, and they could just take it back. And as you said, it's gone up in value. Well, that's great because it just went up in value for them. Chamid Ravna Ukva Yasma, the wine of Rabbana Ukva, the orphan, Mashchua Arba. So people came and intended to purchase from it, and they did a kinyan meshicha. They took they took these barrels of wine, and at the time they didn't pay for it, but they took them, and at the time it was worth $4 a barrel. I could become b'shisa, but b'shisa, and then the barrels went up in value, and now they weren't worth 4 anymore. Now they were worth 6. Also, the comment of Nachman. So the apotropos came to Rav Nachman, Amar Lahu, and he said to them, Hainu Rav Chanina bar Idi says, don't worry, it's like Rav Chanina bar Idi, the Amar Rav Chanina bar Idi, Amar Shmuel, Nichse Yisomin Arein Kehektish V'lo Makni Ele B'chas, but that the property of the Yisomim are hektish, are like hektish, and the way to acquire them is with money. These people didn't pay money for them, they just took them, they tried to do a kinyan Mashiach, but that doesn't work by Yisomim, and therefore, when they took them, they were $4 a barrel, now they're $6, they weren't koning them, so they still belong to the Yisomim, and the Yisomim now have these barrels at the higher at the higher value. I think I'm going to have to stop here because I'm just running out of time and we still have a bunch to do. So I guess I'm going to have to pick up this daf another time. Alright, now this is not the next day, 2 days later, and I'm recording, and I hope I remember what I'm talking about. Moshuch pere miyasme Aikor, Hainu Rav Chanina bar Idi, Zol lo yikar chedget chamer mehektish. What did Rav Chanina bar Idi say? Wait, what did he say? Oh yeah, okay, fine. Amar Shmuel. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Nichse Yisomer in Kehektish. Okay, got it. This next bit's a little complicated. I hope I remember it. Alright, so Moshuch pere miyasmi. Okay, so if you have Yisomim, and they have fruits, and then we said that right. So what was his name? Rav Chanina bar Idi Amar Shmuel had said Nichse Yisomer Rein Kehektish V'lo Makni Ele B'Kaspa, that the stuff of Yisomim is like hektish, and therefore it's purchased with money as opposed to with Meshicha. Right? Normally, if you take something and take it into your possession, so then you're kone kinyan Meshicha. But by the Yisomim, even if you do a kinyan Meshicha, it's irrelevant. You have to transfer money. So now, Moshuch per miyasmi. So if somebody, purchased fruits from Yisomim, but they didn't pay money, they did a kinyan Meshicha. Well, that's nothing. Aikor. So now, if they go up in value, so now Hainu Rav Chanina bar Idi, the orphans can say, look, you haven't paid us yet. You don't own it yet. The price is higher now. We want a higher price. Zol, now what if it goes down in value? So then, lo yikar chedget chamer mehektish. Well, a hedget shouldn't be more stringent than hektish, meaning, well, if in a normal situation, a non-hektish situation, a kinyan Meshicha would work, and in that case, he's stuck with it because he already did a kinyan Meshicha. Well, then when it's hektish, they shouldn't be disadvantaged. Hektish is on a higher level, so they could say, hey, sorry, it went down in value, it's yours. Amshichu lehu pere liasme. So now, if Yisomim did a kinyan Meshicha on fruits, Iker, and then Iakar, and then it goes up, and then the price goes up, right? So they only did a kinyan Meshicha, they didn't pay money for it yet. So now, since they didn't pay money for it, and they're Yisomim, now the price went up, and they haven't yet paid for it. Now normally, they would, right, exactly. So Amshichulu per liasmi Iakar, right? So it was, I don't know, $4 a bushel or whatever it is. And that's when they did a kinyan Meshicha on it. But again, Meshicha by Yisomim is irrelevant, so it technically wasn't theirs yet. And then the price went up, and now it's $6 for a bushel or whatever. Basically, the price went up. So now the seller wants to say, well, you didn't pay money yet, now you have to pay the higher price. But lo yekar chedget chamer mehektish. But, well, if in a non-hektish context, they would be the owners, but the Yisomim would be the owners of it, because they did a kinyan Meshicha, so they shouldn't be disadvantaged and have to pay a higher price since they're Yisomim and it's like hektish, so therefore they can still pay the lower price. Zol, now if the price went down and now it's a less valuable thing, so they want to give it back, well, Savar Minah Hainu Rav Chanina bar Idi. So the rabbis start to say, well, that's like Rav Chanina bar Idi, that they want to give it back because it went down in price. It's cheaper. They want to. They don't. It's worth less now. So if they want to give it back, so they should be able to give it back. They haven't paid money for it yet, right? So they thought to say they should be able to just give it back. So Amarle Rav Shisha bar Rav Idi, Amarle Rav Shisha bar Rav Idi, Rav Shisha bar Rav Idi said to them, Ha ra he lididhu, but that's going to end up coming to bite them. Because what's going to happen next time is that the mamash is going to be hungry, and they're going to need fruits. And the seller is going to say, oh, I know you people. I know what you did to my friend. You took the fruits. They went down in value, and you gave it back to him because you hadn't paid money yet, and you didn't own it yet because the Mashiach doesn't work by you, and you just gave it back with him and kept him stuck with the lower price. So what's going to happen is in the future, the sellers are going to say, no, I need money up front. I know that the kinyan of a yosim is only with money, bekaspa. So that's it. I need cash up front. So it's going to end up disadvantaging them. So yes, technically speaking, they don't own the fruits yet because they only did a kinyan meshicha, and they have to get right by yisom. It's about money. But so technically they could say, look, take it back, and sell it for less. But says Rav Shisha Brei Davidi, that's going to end up coming to bite them in the tuchus because nobody's going to want to sell to them until they give cash. Yaive yasme zuze apere. So if the yisomim paid for fruits, right? Right. So yisomim paid for fruits. So if that's the case, it's already sold, right? It's theirs now, right? Zol. Now, if it goes back, so they didn't yet do a kinyan meshicha, right? They didn't, right? But they paid for the fruits, they gave money, but they didn't take them yet. Now Zol, now the price went down, and they want to renege lo yekoach hedjit chomer min hahektish. Well, what does that mean in this case? So they gave money for it, but they didn't do a meshicha yet. So it's not theirs, and it went down in price, and they don't want it. They want to give it back. So just like a regular person would be able to give it back because he didn't yet do a kinyan meshicha on it, so they can also give it back. Okay, Iker, now if it goes up in value, and if it goes up in value, and now the seller wants to say, hey, I want, you guys paid a lower price, and you guys paid a lower price, and you didn't take it yet, you didn't do a kinyan meshicha yet, so I want to take it back so that I could sell it to somebody else for a higher price. So Rav Mina Hainu Rav Chaniloi Bar Idi. So they figured to say, well, look, Rav Chaniloi Bar Idi, right? That Yisomim, they only Meshicha doesn't make a difference, right? It's paying money, and they already paid money, so they basically locked in at the lower price. Rav Shisha Brei Davidi says to them, hara he liditu, yeah, but in the end it's going to come back to bite them, because they're going to end up, their stuff is going to end up being burnt, right? Remember, this is a situation where they paid for the fruits, but the fruits were still by the seller, right? They didn't take them yet. They paid with money. So now by Yisomim, that's a good sale, but by everybody else, that wouldn't be a good sale. Now the price went up. The seller wants to say, hey, you didn't actually take the products yet. I want to cancel the sale so that I could sell it to somebody else for more expensive. They want to argue, yeah, but we're Yisomim. When it comes to Yisomim, money is what makes the kinyan. We already paid money. So it says of Shisha Brei Davidi, yes, they're technically right, but what's going to happen is there's going to be a fire in the cellar. You're right. Well, in the seller's cellar, there's going to be a fire, and he's going to say, oops, ma la'asot, your stuff got burnt, because he's not going to, right? Like, it's not his anymore, right? He already sold it at a lower price. Right, the Yisomim are insisting that they lock in the lower price. There's a fire in the cellar. He's not really going to care to save it, and therefore they're going to lose out. So better to just say, fine, we didn't yet do a kinyan meshicha. If you want to renege, you can renege. Okay. Yave lehu zuze liyasme. If the Yisomim were selling stuff and they received money, apere, for fruits, iyaker. Now, if it goes up in price, right, so they received money, but the buyer didn't actually do a meshicha yet, and now it went up in price, and they want to renege so that they could sell it to somebody else for more, lo yekach hedjit chomer mehektish. Well, if in a normal non-hektish case, the person never acquired it because they didn't do a meshicha, so therefore, he would be able to say, actually, sorry, the Yisomim could say, sorry, we want to sell it to somebody else because it's a higher price now. So since in a non-hektish context, they would be able to do that. So also, in this Yisomim hektish context, they can also say, sorry, we want to sell it to somebody else. Zul, but if it went down if the value went down and the buyer wants to renege, Sover Mina Hanudov Hanilai Bar Idi, so they thought to say, well, look, they already received the money. It's the sale is done. The buyer can't renege. Omer Lahu, and he says to them, Rav Shisha Bar Davidi, ha ra hi lididu, it's going to end up biting them. The zimnin dimitztarke lezuze v'lekat yuavlu adiavulu pere. But what's going to happen is sometimes they're going to need the money, right? They're going to need to sell their fruits because they actually need cash. But nobody's going to want to do anything with them until the fruits are readily available to transfer at that moment, because they're nervous that otherwise that otherwise they're not going to be able to renege right later on. They're not going to be able to undo it later on, and therefore it's going to end up being more difficult for these some, because they're always going to make sure that, they're not going to be able to do any transactions except if they have like the fruit mamish right there. Nobody's going to trust them with any kind of credit or anything like that, or just like to do it later because they might just renege. So all right, fine, all right, what are you on? Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, no, it's because the other person won't be able to renege, and then they won't let the people have it back. Right, meaning nobody's going to want to buy it unless they get the fruits immediately, right then and there, because if it goes down in price, they're not going to be able to renege on it, but the purchasers won't be able to renege, and unless they get it right then and there, so then they won't be willing to do business with the Yisomim. So therefore, it's in their interest to be able to allow the people to renege later if the price goes down and they haven't yet done a kinyan mashicha. Okay, that was the hard part. If I remember correctly, the rest isn't so hard. All right. Now, Omer of Ashi says of Ashi, Omer of Kahana, Chasmiran Ashtore, the Imi de Zira Yasma, says of Ashi that he and Rav Kahana signed on the shtar that the mother of Zeiri, the orphan, wrote, the Mizabna Ara Lecharga below Achrazda, that she was selling property in order to pay for their taxes. They had to pay a head tax, and she sold property in order to pay for this head tax for the orphans. Below achrazda, without making an announcement, right? Normally, when it comes to selling the property of orphans, so you make an announcement for 30 days so that you can be sure to get the best price, and that there's anybody who's willing to put in a better offer will have an opportunity to do so. But she sold off the land without doing this 30-day period because she needed the money in order to pay for this tax. The Amrina Idoi, because they're and say that for these three things, for the head tax, to pay for food, and to pay for burial, you can just get rid of, unload the asset right away. I think that's a fancy way of saying you could sell the property right away, and you don't need a whole 30-day thing because you need the cash right now. Amram Tzaba Apetropis Dias Mehava. Amram, the dyer, was an apotropis for orphans. Hava also krovim lekamid of Nachman, and the relatives of the orphans came to Rav Nachman. Amrle, they said to Rav Nachman, Kalavishu machse miyasme. Rav Nachman says, look, he's spending the orphans' money. He's spending the money of their estate, and he's buying fancy clothes for himself. Amrlu, Rav Nachman says to them, Kiechi dilishtamad mile. No, look, it's in their best interest that he's doing it only in their interest. That if he has better clothing, then he'll be better respected. And if he's better respected, he could represent them more effectively. But then they charged that, but he's also using the money of the orphans to buy food, and he's not a wealthy fellow. So I don't understand. He must be taking it from the Yisomim. Emer Mitzia Ashkach. Nah, not necessarily. I'll say he found something very precious and expensive, and he suddenly became wealthy, and that's where he's paying for this food. V'aka mafsid. But then they pull out the trump card, and they say, yeah, but he's ruining their property. Omerlu, he said to them, okay, if that's the case, they bring me witnesses, demafsid, that he's really ruining their property, vasalkine, and I'll get rid of him. He won't be able to be an apotropos anymore. The Amr Avuna Chavrin, that our colleague Rav Huna says, Mishmei Derav, in the name of Rav, apotropos demafsid, that if you have an apotropos who's ruining the property of the Yisomim that he's meant to be representing, misalkinon lei, we get rid of him. Ditmar, that it's stated, apotropos demafsid, when it comes to an apotropos, oh cool, apotropa. Oh, nice. Apotropos. That's awesome. That is awesome. The other day, I said apotropa just because I was being a shmendrik. I thought it was funny, but it's actually a thing. I thought like apotropas, I was trying to be cute. I would say like apotropas is plural and apotropa is singular. And I thought it was really funny, but then funny in a certain way. but then I stopped doing it because I was like, all right, it's not actually correct. But here it says apotropa. Friends, that's it. From now on, apotropa. Nice. Do. Nice. Nice. Ti'itmar, apotropa. Demafsid, that if you have an apotropa, love it. Love it. Call me a fool, I'll just point you to Nun Beis, Amud Beis. I found my source. Apotropa. Demafsid, what was it? Apotropa, you're my only friend. Apotropa demafsid, that if you have an apotropa, I love this, who's ruining the property of the orphans, Avuna Amar Rab Misalkina Le, says Avuna in the name of Rab, that we got to get rid of him. The very of Shila Amr, they say by the Besmedrash of Shila, Lo Misalkina Le, we don't get rid of him. Ve'ilchsa Misalkina Le, the halacha is we do get rid of him. Apotropa shemineu avi yisom yishava. So an apotropa, love it. An apotropa who was appointed by the father, so lo yishava, so he doesn't swear, right? The Mishnah had said that if the apotropa, alright, I guess I could say apotropos sometimes too. But it's interchangeable. I could say whichever one I want, whenever I want, and it's not going to be wrong. That's the important part. I can use them interchangeably now. So if you have an apotropos who was appointed by the father to represent the orphans, so at some point later, when the children become adults, he has to swear to them that he didn't act improperly with their inheritance, with the estate. Now, and then we said, but if it was a court-appointed apotropa, so then he does not. The court-appointed apotropa does not need to swear. Abba Shaul had said punkt fakert. Now here we go. Apotropos shemineu avi yisom yishava. So an apotropos who was appointed by the father of the orphan, so he needs to swear. My time, how come he needs to swear? Ilav de isle anoa mine lo havale apotropos. Well, remember, swearing is a serious thing, right? So the concern here is that, do we have to be concerned that if we make the person swear, he's not going to want to do it. He's not going to want to be an apotropos. So, and we need somebody to represent the kids. So we say, look, what's the reason why why the father appointed this fellow to be an apotropos? So mistama, the fellow owes the father a favor. So if he owes the father a favor, he's gonna, he's gonna represent the kids. He owes it, he owes it to them, and we're not concerned that because of the fact that he's gonna need to swear, that will prevent him from acting as the apotropa. So again, so my time outcome, if not for the fact that the father had benefited this fellow in some manner, lo hava le apotropos, he wouldn't be, serving as the apotropos, and the fact that he needs to swear is not going to is not going to stop him from representing the kids. However, if it's a court-appointed apotropos, so then he does not swear, because milsa be'alma hu da'avid levedina. Look, he's doing the bezdin a favor. Bezdin comes to this guy and says, look, there are orphans. They need somebody to represent them. They're kids. They're minors. They need somebody to represent them. Would you be willing to represent these kids? He says, sure. But if he knows that, Then I have to make a shvuah with the Sefer Torah that I didn't take anything. That's serious stuff. Remember, we learned the other day that that in Almana doesn't swear. And Almana doesn't swear to collect her when she collects her ksuba, because there was that story with that woman was baking bread and she swore and her kids died. Like, swearing is like a serious thing, So if Bezdin comes and says, look, can you do us a favor? He says, wait, but I don't want to swear, So therefore, that's why the court appointed apotropos does not need to swear. Abba Shaul but Abba Shaul said it's punkt fakert, that the fellow appointed by the father does not need to swear, but the fellow appointed by Bezdin does need to swear. My time, how come? Minu Bezdin Yishava. My time, Minu Bezdin Yishava. How come Abba Shaul says that if he's appointed by Bezdin, then he needs to swear? It's a big covet. Right? It's like, I don't know what it's like, but something that's coming to mind. I don't know much about anything, but I think there's all sorts of ways to have covet like this, but I think like lawyers, when you finish law school, I'm sure we have some lawyers in Babylon Talmud. When you finish law school, maybe you can like clerk by a Supreme Court justice or something. I mean, you put that stuff on your resume. You know what I mean? Like that's you put that on your resume that you clerked this, or you did an internship at some fancy place, or that's right. That opens doors. So here also, I mean, right? The guy puts on his resume, court appointed apotropos. It's an honor. It opens doors. He's a trustworthy person. So he'll be willing to do that, even if it means if he has to swear, that's fine, he'll swear. But like this, he's establishing himself as an upright person, and that's beneficial to him. So again, my time of Minu Bezdin Yishava, how come when he's appointed by the court he has to swear? Because the benefit that it causes to him, that rumors go out that he's an upright person. Who's going to hear about this? Who's going to hear he's an upright person. Who's going to hear about it. I'll give you a hint. He's going to be coming back from shul to his bungalow on Shabbos, and he's going to overhear the yentis are talking. You know who that is? That's the court-appointed apotropa. And everyone's going to, between bites of low-fat mandelbread and sips of Diet Coke, they're going to say, ooh, is he married? And then they're going to start, and so it's a big covet. It's a big covet. So, okay. Right, the inish ba'emnu, the samich ole bedino, because Bezdin is relying upon him, and even if he has to swear in the end, that's not going to prohibit him, that's not going to stop him from, that's not going to deter him from accepting this position. Mineo abi yisomim, however, on the other hand, if he's appointed by the father, lo yishava, he doesn't swear, because milsa ba'amu da'abde la'adadi, look, he's doing his friend a favor who just passed away, and if you make him swear, then it becomes complicated. Omer Rav Chanan bar Ami, Omer Shmuel, ilchzak Abba Shmuel, says Rav Chanan bar Abi, the name of Shmuel, that the halacha is take like Abba Shaul. Tani Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Omer says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, zeh v'zeh yishava, that in both cases, whether appointed by the father, whether appointed by the court, he has to swear. V'halacha gitvarim, the halacha is like that. Tani Rav Tachlifa bar Ma'arova, Kamid Rav Abo, apotropos shemineu abi yisomim yishava, that an apotropos that is appointed by the father of the orphans, yishava, he has to swear, mipnei shu nosei socher, because he's receiving money. Amalei at ISIS Kaba v'chaylas lay, is that, I don't understand, what you bringing you bringing the money to give to him? I mean, he's not receiving any money. Rather, it's because he is like a person who is receiving money. Like we said earlier, that since the father had benefited him some way, so therefore he accepted upon himself to take care of the Yisomim, and he's not going to stop. The swear is not going to prevent him. Friends, that was Daf Nun Beis from Masechet Gittin. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.